Today, we're demystifying the idea of inflation. I'll be sharing some tips and trends to help you understand and manage your finances. So, if you've realized that your grocery bill has increased over the past few months, then you've definitely experienced inflation. Simply put, inflation is the rate of increase in prices. So, for example, let's say you had $100, this $100 bill, which you used to buy 2 bottles of water last year. Because of inflation, this same $100 bill might only be able to get you 1 of those bottles of water today. Now, that's because of inflation. So essentially, you're spending more money for the same item. Now, that means that your spending power is reduced. So, how do you escape inflation? Well, unfortunately, inflation is something that is felt by everyone in society. It affects your loans, utility bills, savings, investments, and pension. And while you can't truly escape inflation, there are unique and smart ways to make inflation work for you, particularly where investments are concerned. Here are some tips from Leovani Dillon, JMMB's corporate manager and group client portfolio and investment strategies.
Certain asset classes over the long term, so not in any specific year, but over the long term, say looking at 5-10 years, tends to outperform inflation or at least match inflation. So that's, for example, real estate, stocks. For example, you have certain bonds that are pegged to inflation. So as inflation goes up, those bonds pay out more. So it basically cancel out the effect or most of the effect of inflation. So those are ways that you can, invest in order to get ahead of it. Most persons will harken back to, for example, housing prices back in their parents' day, and they'd say, boy, housing did cheap then compared to now. Part of the reason why that change has occurred is inflation. Because remember, when you think about housing in particular, there's inflation in every part of the construction. So you're paying the workers, the blocks, the concrete would go up with inflation. So when you have that property now, let's say 10, 20 years later, the value to create, the amount of money required to create same property, to replicate it, is going to be higher because you have to pay the persons more, the concrete costs more money, work, so everything goes up. So it kind of hedges that inflation. Similar things with stocks, because a company in general, companies, especially certain kind of companies, they're able to increase the price of their goods and services with inflation. So, for argument's sake, inflation goes up. A company that sells, for example, tin mackerel or flour is able to increase their prices in line with that, and that allows them to maintain their value. So, what can happen is that that company can actually become more profitable because of inflation in nominal terms, and therefore, if you're invested in that company, it kind of maintains the value of your investment in that way. Yeah.
All right. So. Be sure to stay tuned to all of CVM News' social media pages for more tips from Leovani on inflation. In other news now, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett has disclosed that tourist arrivals for the first 3 months of the year is well over the 1 million mark. This on the back of record arrivals last year, totaling 4.2 million visitors. Minister Bartlett was speaking at a recent IDB workshop in Kingston.
The truth is that for the first 2-3 months of this year, the cruise and stopover were at somewhere about 1.3 million in 3 months. Do the math. And then we have 2,300 new rooms to come on stream starting in May of this year.
And that's your business report for today. Your market summary is up next. Be sure to stay tuned for more CVM News at 7 with Curlin and Stephen right after the break.